Hi, everybody. Welcome to Weekly Reminders. I'm Sarah Kimber, the Program Manager at Remind. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist here in the state of Texas as well as California. And for everybody who's in Houston, I hope you're able to get outside today because it was a gorgeous day, being safe. I took a social distancing walk outside just a little while ago and it was really nice. So hopefully you all got to go outside today for a bit. If you haven't checked out our other episodes of Weekly Reminders after you watch this video, maybe you can do that. We have talked about some other great topics such as self-care, navigating anxiety, and grief. So today, what we're going to talk about is a really important topic for parents and children, addressing children's anxiety from COVID-19. And I think we can all understand that with schools closed, with life being completely disrupted for children amid this pandemic, it's been a really rough time for children. And so this is an important topic to figure out if we have children at home, or maybe if we know somebody who has children, maybe they're struggling. Maybe there's something that you can learn today that might be able to help either that parent or that child in this situation. And if you really think about it, during any changing situation that occurs where there's a loss of routine, where there's uncertainty, isolation, it only seems natural that fear and anxiety and these symptoms of potentially depression could start to manifest in our lives. And so it's important to understand kind of what it looks like and what's going on for children. And it's different in children than it is in adults in regards to the situation that we're having with anxiety for several reasons. First of all, children and teenagers, they may be having a particularly difficult time making sense of what's happening around them, just given their pending maturity. Their brains haven't fully developed. They have a lack of experience just due to their age, and they're inherently vulnerable. And so that's why it's our duty as adults to protect them and to kind of guide them. And this endless source of news may feel very overwhelming, very scary. And typically when children are watching the news, they kind of lack the same abilities that adults do to decipher what's actually being said. And it can really cause them more panic because they can't really understand kind of how it's affecting them directly in their life. And it can really just cause them to feel more anxious regarding what's happening currently. So what are some symptoms of anxiety that we might see in children? So similar to adults, they might be feeling nervous, they might be feeling irritable, they might tell you that they feel anxiety. They might have increased heart rate, increased breathing, trouble sleeping is very common, and that could be having trouble falling asleep, having trouble staying asleep, maybe waking up throughout the night, having a difficult time going back to sleep. So any types of disruption in sleep. They might be having more mood swings than usual, more tantrums depending on what age they are. They might be having a difficult time concentrating. So if you're doing the schoolwork at home, they might be having a difficult time staying on task, finishing tasks that they're supposed to be doing. And also, it might manifest with physical complaints. So complaints of having stomach aches, maybe headaches, those sorts of things. So today we're going to talk about what you can do during this time of COVID-19 to help ease the anxiety of the kiddos at home. So the first recommendation that I'm going to give you is to simply talk to the child or children about COVID-19. Simple as that. Now, you want to be careful about when you choose to speak to them about this. I mean, you want to do it at a time where, one, they're paying attention, so they're not on their phone. So pick a good time when you know that they're usually willing to talk. Some people find a good time to do that would be around the dinner table, maybe, and do it more than one time. So make sure that you're not just addressing it one time and then trying to dismiss it and not go back and address it again. So make sure that you're bringing the topic up often and talking with them about it. As time goes on and new information continues, they might have different questions or concerns about what's going on. So make sure that you continue to leave the conversation open. There's actually a great book that I found online, a PDF that you can look at for if you have children under 7, called COVID book, #COVID book, COVID book, and it was a really great just way to explain to children under the age of 7 in a book form kind of what's going on. So the reason why that's important, because you want to take into consideration how old they are, their developmental stage, and the information that's really important for them to give. You don't want to give them too much information, and you don't want to give them not enough information depending on how old they are. So something to think about. Also, be very honest and direct with them. So it's okay if they ask you questions and you don't know the answer to it. That's okay. You don't have to know all the answers. Some parents don't want to talk to their kids about certain things because they just don't know what to tell them. They don't know when this is going to end. They don't know if somebody they know will get sick or if they'll get sick, or if they get sick, what will happen to them. And so it's okay not to have all the answers, but also know where to go if you need to get the answers. So make sure you're going to credible websites like the CDC to get information if there's something that the children are asking that you can provide. And if they're older kids, maybe it's something that you can do together, or using it as an educational experience to get them engaged, having them help you find certain answers, and then depending on maybe their areas of interest, using it as a way for them to learn something. Whether it's on the medical side, maybe on the history side, they can research other pandemics that happened in the past, so you can use it as an educational experience. And when you're talking to kids about this, make sure that you are allowing them to ask you the questions and have them actually lead the conversation. So oftentimes we want to provide the information, we want to lead the conversation, but you really want the kids to be able to lead, because you might not know what they're thinking, or just don't assume that you know what their worries are. So you want to make sure that when you do allow them to lead the conversation, you're actively listening to what they're saying, and then also just let them know that the odds of something happening to them are very slim. And so that's the first point when we're talking about addressing their anxiety, just talking to them about COVID-19. The next step I would say would be to reassure. So reassure your children, somebody that's a child that's feeling anxiety over COVID-19, let them know that this is a normal feeling. I think we're all anxious from time to time during this, incredibly scary time. And so that normalize that, this is a valid feeling that they're having, and it's okay that they're having the feeling. While you do have the urge to provide that reassurance to them, and it feels like it's really helping in the moment, just make sure that you're not giving excessive reassurance, because that actually serves to kind of reinforce and increase anxiety over time. So make sure that it's minimal. And in order to do that, I think you can also help your child find ways to cope with the anxiety. So if they are experiencing it, okay, great. They've told you that, they're confident enough to tell you, or maybe you're noticing that they're having some anxiety and you decide to help them. Okay, let's figure out how we can cope with these feelings. So find ways that they can feel in control. So you can, might be different from the things that help you with your anxiety. So it's helpful to have that conversation with them, maybe try different things. Maybe exercise works for them. Maybe deep breathing works for them. Anything that really allows them to feel like they have some control over their feelings and the situation. I know there are some great examples out there of kids that are finding ways to help others during this time. I saw this really great story on the news where this 7-year-old boy in North Carolina wanted to run a marathon in his backyard to raise money for the hospital workers. And so he actually raised like over $1,500 and was going to keep doing it. And that was really great. So it was a way for that family to be in control and doing something even though they were still at home. Also, make sure that when you're reassuring them, you're telling them that they're safe, um, and explain to them how you're keeping them safe. So some of the things that they are in control over: washing their hands, they're in control of that. Staying inside, they're in control of that. And so these things help to reassure them, and also explaining to them that this is a temporary situation, although doesn't really feel temporary because we don't know when it's going to end. We do know that it is temporary right now. And so explaining that to them. And then lastly, maybe just helping them sit with the anxiety. And so it's okay for them to have it, and if they're feeling it, to realize that they can sit with the anxiety, they can sit through that emotion, that it's doable, and it will eventually pass. And then that helps them to understand that if they do have these feelings, that it's okay. You don't have to get rid of them right away. It might be okay just to experience them. So that's reassuring. The next category that I would say to address anxiety with the children is going to be a really important one that I know a lot of my friends that have children already know that they should do and have been doing really well to the best of their ability, is trying to keep a routine. And so this helps parents as well as kids to feel like they're in control of their daily lives. So they know when they're going to wake up. They know when they're going to be doing their schoolwork. They know when they're going to be having their meals. They know when they're going to have free time. They know when they're going to have time to talk to their friends. And so, really schedule that out. If you are able to maybe have a whiteboard at home, you can write your schedule on it so that they can see that, and then really stick to it. Make sure that it's consistent, because that's something that you are in control of, and it helps them to feel like there's something consistent, and that reduces anxiety. So the next item would be really important, not just for children, but adults as well, but especially for children, considering what I talked about earlier, where I said that it's more difficult for children to understand the messages that are coming across the news and how to understand that in their situation. So limit the exposure to the news. Like I said, this is good for everybody in the household, but especially younger children. You want to make sure that they're not being able to intake a lot of that media, because they might not be able to understand. It could really cause them a lot of panic because they might not be understanding really what's being said. And it can really frighten them more. I mean, I'm sure it frightens you as an adult when you're watching the news. So make sure that you are limiting access for children. And for teenagers as well, I think it can be kind of difficult in this day and age to be able to limit all of their access to media, and they have social media and they're learning all this information maybe from their friends. And so I think it might be more difficult with older children, but that's all the more reason to really talk to them about it, and be able to see kind of what information they're getting, but also really recommend for them as well to limit what they're intaking for the news and media. And that should definitely decrease the anxiety. I know the days that I don't watch the news, I feel much better. So there's a balance. The last thing that we're going to talk about today, I saved for the end because I do believe that it is the most important, which is being a role model. Model calmness. And why is this the most important? Most of you probably already know, if you have children, that they are always learning from your behavior. I think sometimes parents forget, right? Especially when you're locked up in the house all day. You forget that they're watching and listening to your every move. And so they're not just listening to what you're saying, but they're watching what you're doing, your behavior. So they're watching how you're managing your own anxiety. So if you're not managing your anxiety well and you're flipping out, then your kids are not going to feel like they're in control, and it's going to increase their anxiety as well. So it's really important to manage your own anxiety And, if you do have a moment where you're experiencing it and they notice it, you can acknowledge that it's there, it's normal, but then make sure that you're doing healthy behaviors to manage your own anxiety. And so really getting in control, if that's something that you're struggling with, is really important, because they're going to watch how you handle yourself during this time, and that's going to make a big impact, not only right now, but in the future for them as well. So what do you need to be doing? You need to be taking care of yourself. You need to be making sure that you're eating healthy. You need to make sure that you're sleeping well. Monitor your reactions to stress. So if you realize that you're becoming overactive and overreactive to situations because you're stressed out, that's a sign that you need to take some time and figure out how you can de-stress. And just be calm and confident. It might feel very difficult for some of us who are really stressed out, and we have to put that brave face on for the kids, but it's really important to be able to do that, to provide them with a sense of calm. And maybe it'll even be better for you, because you can trick yourself into maybe thinking that you're feeling a little bit better than you are if you have to put on this brave face and be calm and confident in front of them. And the last thing I'll say is that on top of your children kind of always watching what you're doing, oftentimes parents forget that the children are listening. And what I mean by that is listening to the conversations that you're having, maybe in the house, not directed at them or with them, but maybe if you're talking with your spouse about your worries and concerns, or maybe you're talking with a friend on the phone, and you kind of forget that your kids are present, and you're kind of maybe sharing some anxieties or some fears about the situation, and your children are overhearing that as well. So it's really important that you understand that children are going to be picking up on the messages that you're sending, even if they're not intended to them, but they're going to hear it, and that's going to impact them maybe even more if you're telling them one thing, and then you go and they hear you saying something different to an adult. That can really scare them. So make sure that you're really aware of what information your children are getting from you, and that if you are sharing with your partner or a friend, that the children are not able to hear what you're saying. That's really important. So that's really all I had for you today. Just to wrap up really quick, let's review. So if your children are experiencing anxiety due to COVID, or somebody who's having children that are experiencing this, talk to them about it. Reassure them about it. Make sure they're keeping a routine. Limit the exposure to news and media. And last but not least, be a role model and model calmness. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you for tuning in to our weekly reminders. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. Like I said, if you haven't watched our other episodes, go ahead and do that now. They're really great. You can visit remindsupport.org if you need any resources for depression or anxiety. You can also stay tuned for our weekly reminders. We have more. We have one coming this Thursday, another great episode for parents. Lauren's going to be talking about work life and parenting. The episode is going to be this Thursday at 11 a.m. And if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free, post a comment. We'd love to hear from you. So everybody stay safe. Have a good night.